Welcome to Your Music Saved Us, where two friends blast ourselves into the past to relive and recontextualize the alternative Christian music we grew up listening to in the 1990s. My name is Clifton, and I'll be your fellow adventurer on this space oddity today. And joining me is someone who... Jay. How's it going? I didn't have anything.
Clifton, I'm disappointed. I always expect a good intro from you, and that's all I get. All right, fine. I'm good, though. Yeah.
This, I usually try to pull from lyrics, and the lyrics on this one are just weird.
Yeah, so... it's true.
All right. Joining us also is the host of the Rumors Are True podcast, Jeremy. How's it going?
Hey guys, thank you so much. I'm really, really honored.
So Jeremy, tell us about your podcast.
Well, I started it, it's a Rumors Are True podcast, obviously, and I started it just over a year ago, I guess September of last year, and it was kind of, obviously, like you guys probably know, it's a passion project. It's really more the geek side of me, this, always just wanting to be involved in music in some way, shape, or form. I used to be a concert promoter in the Midwest for about 4 to 5 years. Tour managed a couple bands and managed some bands as well. So always just kind of had my foot in the pool of music, and I could never play, but I could always be backstage. So, it kind of was one of those things that throughout my life, I've just kind of stored all this useless knowledge, if you will, about bands, and I'm sure you guys can relate. It's just, the nerdiness of it all, and that's what I love, and I thrive off of it. Yeah, so I started the podcast because I kept telling my wife I wanted to do it, and she said, well, then do it. And so I did it, and I'm really blessed. I definitely have had some incredible guests over the years, and it's only getting better, to be honest with you guys. And that's not a brag by any means. It's just I'm really grateful. But yeah, man, I just I'm friends with, I would say, a good portion of the people. Some of them people obviously I don't know, but I started it as being able to talk to people that I know and just have these stories that we've talked about in the past. And then I was like, obviously wanted to branch out a little and start to talk to people that I admire and like, and and it's funny because my podcast name is kind of tongue-in-cheek. It really is. I don't care about the rumors. It's a total joke, to be honest with you guys. I started it, I would say it on Facebook every once in a while. I'd just be like, well, guys, the rumors are true. And people would be like, well, what is it? And I'm just like, it was a total joke. But it kind of stuck, and my friends always thought it was funny. So kind of went with that name just because it goes kind of with it. And, again, when having the conversations with people, there are questions I ask that we've all wanted to know, and I'm sure you guys have done the same. It's just a matter of, just having that great conversation, man. I just really love it. I enjoy it. I aim to have people be a fly on the wall. That's kind of my goal, and be part of the conversation, if you will, from a distance. And so, again, super blessed, super honored to have a ton of these people come on, and I'm stoked for the future, for real.
And so you obviously do a lot of interviews with artists from bands. What kind of bands do you target with your interviews?
Well, to be honest with you, I know my bread and butter is the old school Christian alternative, punk rock, hardcore, that whole world. I get it. But I've definitely done some episodes. I did an episode with a director from the Jesus Revolution movie, which was incredible. I just kind of messaged him, and he's like, yeah, sure. And I don't know. We had mutual friends, so it kind of wound up being like, oh, we know the same people, that type of thing. And I've got a couple actors in the queue, couple that I know that, I thought would be cool. I just don't want to do music. I want to do art. I think it's cool in every facet. And then, again, there's got some bands like Mineral. I had Chris from Mineral on.
Yeah, that was a great interview, by the way.
Thank you. He's so cool. He's so kind. And, it's weird because I actually met him a couple years ago when I was on tour with another band, and I'm like geeking out. Like,
right?
Are you kidding me? Like, Chris, and he's like, sends me his phone number, and I'm just like, yeah. So anyway, it's kind of those things. And then I've got like, I've got the singer from Code 7 coming up. I've got, I want to sprinkle in not just Christian bands, but I do know that's the bread and butter. I understand that. But for me, I want to interview bands that I love personally. And so like, I like to sprinkle a couple of those in. And I had the drummer from Yellow Card on recently. And, just like, kind of throw those in here and there. But I know, kind of what my end game is, just have a good conversation with whoever it is and, whoever it may be. But I definitely love the nostalgia factor, obviously. So.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I haven't listened to everyone yet, but like so many I've enjoyed. And there's a lot of crossover with the stuff we've covered. Like you've done Chris Bowden from the Mer Babies that we've done on here.
Yeah.
You had Adam Neubauer, Goaty Hook. That was a great interview.
He's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm listening to, I was telling you, I was listening to the Matt McCarty one right now, Driver 8, which we will cover Driver 8 probably very soon because that's definitely been on our list. But it's like, that was a guy that I kind of thought, and this is, I think part of this is because it was pre-internet, I kind of thought he just kind of disappeared. I had no idea he was in Bon Voyage and so many bands after Driver 8. I mean, part of it, and this was in your interview, part of it's because he just like missed the photo shoot. So, you're looking at the CD cover and you're like, oh, okay, Jason and his wife, cool. But like, that was really fun to just hear all that because Driver 8, I felt like was one of those bands that so many people loved and everybody was just like, what happened?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I haven't even listened to the Chris Colbert interview, which like you just put out, which like, he helped
really
work on this album that we're talking about tonight. So I'm pumped to hear like any stories you have from that. I have a tiny bit of an interview I found somewhere, him talking a little bit about this album that I'll share in a little bit. But yeah, man, you're good at getting all these. You're also, I want to give you credit, you're really prolific. Like, I feel like you're putting out like maybe one a week now. Is that right?
Yeah, it's kind of scary because that wasn't my intention. My intention was to do like 2 a month.
Yeah,
and then I literally got to a point where I had like 10 recorded and ready to go. I was like, so I did a couple times where I released 2 at once because I was just like, it's kind of like having a present and wanting to give it out. It's not, again, about me, but I'm like, this is so good. I need to get it out. So I did that for a little bit. I mean, I'm trying to do at least have 2 or 3 in the can just in case, like I had to go out of town recently for my brother. So I had one ready to go. So it's kind of like, and to be honest with you, I'm really blessed with my day job allows me some time to do that. And that's a good portion of why I have so many, because a lot of people are like, hey, can you do daytime? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Let me know. And my wife's been so supportive as well. So like right now she's watching Netflix and I'm like, I'm going to be gone for a couple hours. So, those type of things. So she's, my biggest fan, and I'm really, really grateful for her supporting me in this endeavor. And I'm just, man, like I keep saying the word blessed, but I'm really just blessed, honestly. Can't say much more than that.
That's great. I gotta ask, 2 related questions. I don't know what order to ask it in. We're going to talk about the prayer. How about this? We're going to talk about the Prayer Chain tonight. And they're one of those bands where a lot of the bands we cover, there's 1 or 2 kind of main people and, that you kind of follow later on after the band breaks up and do other stuff and interesting. And you have no idea what happens to some of them. The Prayer Chain, like all 4 of those guys are really interesting, and all kind of 4 went on to do interesting things after the band. So I guess my first question is like, are we going to get an interview with somebody from the Prayer Chain on The Rumors Are True at some point? Please.
We are.
Okay, good. I was like, any of them would be great.
We are. I'm in talks with, I won't name who, but I've been in talks with a couple of them actually. And I actually got to meet, which I guess we could tell this later, but I got to meet Tim Tabor a couple years ago, and we've formed kind of a, pseudo friendship, if you will. He likes to text me on occasion and vice versa, and, that type of thing. So kind of been talking to him a little bit. But there's someone else in the band that I'm pretty close to having come on soon. So for sure, I'm honored. And another little side note, which again, I probably could tell you this later, but
it's okay. We could say it then too.
I worked so my friends Jonathan and Walter own a vinyl factory here. called vinyl record pressing, and they've pressed John Mark McMillan, they've pressed some tooth and nail bands, that type of thing. And I worked for them for a year and a half, 2 years, something like that. And Tim, his old label Floodgate Records, they were on it. Jonathan was on it. He was in a band called Bernard, fantastic band, kind of like Coldplay, Keane, that type of things. Really fantastic songwriting. They wound up being a band called Sun Bears. And that's who I met. When I met Tim, I was on tour with Sun Bears, and they were opening for Five Iron Frenzy in Orlando. Yeah, it was just crazy. And then, ironically, the next day, they played with Jeff Moore in the Distance at a church. It was just this weird, like, weekend. Like, I couldn't make it up. Like, I promise you, it's so real, and it was just, like, the most bizarre weekend. But it was cool. So anyway, they have a vinyl factory that I worked at, and we were honored, and I was honored. They repressed Mercury, and I actually physically pressed a good portion of those records.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
that's
trust
cool.
me. That was like, I don't know, man. That was a really nod from the big guy in the sky in a weird way. Like, I loved that record for so long, and to actually physically be part of that production and manufacturing, although I will say it's extremely boring, just so everyone knows. Pressing records is boring. Yeah. But with that said,
you can watch videos of it on YouTube. It's pretty boring.
Yes, it's extremely boring. But there's nothing better than taking it off and looking at it for the first time and just knowing that that's like a piece of history, or that's a piece of someone's history. And so I got to be a part of that, and I'm super honored and super stoked to have been a part of that. It was so cool. And Jonathan and my friend Jared, they were in Bernard. They never got into the prayer chain. It's weird. They never were into them. They're younger they're probably 10 years younger than me, maybe 7 or 8. So they didn't know. And I'm like geeking out. I'm like, this is like, Tim Tabor is a god, like for real, a god. And they're just like, no, it's Tim, that type of thing. So, I'm like, I think I sent you a picture earlier, Jade. Like, I'm like in awe. I don't know if you can see it on my face. I'm just like, Tim Tabor's right next to me. Like, anyway. So yeah, there's those little tidbits that it's always kind of just been a link to this record in some way, shape, or form for me. Highly influential in my life. So it's like, yeah, totally. They will be coming on at some point.
Awesome. Okay. My follow-up to that in broader than just a prayer chain, are there any, like, who's on your wish list? Like, if you could get anybody, who's kind of top your wish list?
Someone else asked me this recently. Lou from Dear FS has asked me this, and he put me on the spot, and I was like, well, obviously, I would love, and I don't think this is going to happen, I would love to have Jason Martin. Who does not want to have Jason Martin?
Fair.
I mean, I don't see that happening, but, I mean, I'm all here for it. Ken Andrews from Failure, would love that. Jeremy Enoch from Sunny Day Real Estate.
Yeah, okay.
Man, I don't even know. Let me think. Oh, man, there's so many. I hate to say that there's so many, but it's like kind of those. I mean, I guess those three for sure. And I really would like to have, just any. Sorry, guys, I'm just trying to think, man. I'm blanking out right here, but I would love to have somebody from Swerve Driver, like all these British bands that I've loved in the past. Somebody from Slow Dive, Neil Halstead, that'd be just things like that. I'm just like, okay, I feel like they're out of my realm, but like, a boy can dream, right?
You never know, man. Sometimes the stuff, like you said, you just reached out to the director of the movie,
dude,
and like, they're like,
me.
yeah, okay.
There's been some that I reached out to, and they're like, yeah, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like, did not expect that, but thank you.
For Jay and I have gotten to interview a few people for the podcast. Well, I've never reached out to anyone. They've always reached out to us first, which has been kind of incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't even know where I would start though. Trying to reach out to somebody, I'd be like, my problem is I would fanboy out too much.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
Like when we had the Julies on, it was hard for me to.
Oh, I bet. Those guys are fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I get it. I think I just go. It's weird. I get into this like zone, I guess, if you will. And I feel like I'm like, it's all business right now. Now, there's times where I like have those moments where I geek out, or maybe inside I'm geeking out. It doesn't come across that way. I've definitely been nervous. I had T.W. Walsh on from Pay to the Line, and I'm like, one of those moments, and it's like. I didn't know him, obviously. So that was kind of not awkward, but, it was just, I think that's probably the hardest thing. You guys probably know. It's like you're asking questions to some people you don't know. You don't know how they're going to take the question, or you don't know how they're going to react, or whatever it may be. And I don't know. I'm just blessed with the gift of gab sometimes, and I think you know, I guess it's just kind of in my blood somewhat. So I'm like I said, a fly on the wall. That's what I'm aiming for, and it's like, yeah, I'm really honored. So,
who has been your biggest fanboy geek out moment so far?
Oh man, that's another good question. You know, I'm gonna pull the band guys and look at my list because I don't remember. I hate to say that. Oh, you know what? To be honest with you, even though, like, I don't know if you guys know who John Mark McMillan is.
Yeah.
So he's pretty prolific songwriter, and I've known him for a little bit, but he reached out to me, which was like total honor. Like, I mean, the guy's like pretty massive.
Big, yeah.
He's very big. And again, we've known each other. I've worked a couple shows with them, and we have mutual friends and stuff, and we've talked on that. But that was really cool experience for me, because I just feel like, to me, that really kind of almost put my podcast on another level in a weird way. And then Mark Solomon, good friend of mine, known him for a long time, but that one is I still kind of geek out about it. Like, I don't know if you listened to that one, but the time I met him, I was working a football game. It's this weird long story, but I was working football games for I was working an FSU game for ESPN. And my friend Ryan, a mutual friend of Mark and I's, he would put the crews together of all these old artists. So Eric Collins from Dennis and Mars is working it. Mark Solomon's working it. Dan Cole from Forever Change. Like, we're all just working this game together. And I'm standing there, and Mark, I didn't know Mark was there at the time, and he walks by, and I'm like, is that Mark Solomon? Like, kind of one of those moments. And I text, and it's stupid because I knew he was married to Eric's wife's sister, but it just didn't register in my head. And so I text my friend Ryan, Ryan's with Furnace Dust. He's one of the main guys. Okay. I'm like, is Mark Solomon working? And he's like, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you. And I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. I know, like royalty here. I mean, and so I obviously went up and introduced myself. We became friends. I've talked to him ever since. He's such a sweet guy. So awesome. That, even though I knew him, that was really an honor as well, and it definitely, I feel like there's moments in every episode where I kind of am like, I cannot believe this is happening. So I guess, not to take the crappy way out, but I feel like most of them, but I definitely say John Mark, T.W. Walsh for sure was, like I said, I was nervous, to be honest with you. And then, like I said, Mark Solomon and yeah, I mean, there's just been so many fantastic episodes, and I only say that because I'm a fan too. Yeah, it's not I still am this is freaking cool, really cool, and I keep saying it, honored to be part of it. It's just, I'm blessed.
All right, Jeremy, well, let's get more specific here. What album are we talking about today?
The Prayer Chain, Mercury, a phenomenal record. It's
their final album.
Yes, is a masterpiece in my opinion, for sure. 100%.
All right. Jay, is this widely available to listen to?
Well, now it is. A few years ago, this was not on Spotify. You could find it on Bandcamp, but not on Spotify. But thank goodness, within the last couple of years, whoever is in charge of all that, put it on there. So it's much more readily available.
Yeah, the guys do have a very thorough Bandcamp, and I bought the album on Bandcamp, and it came with a PDF of the entire artwork and everything. So I'm going to endorse going to Bandcamp, and if you don't have this, go get it.
Absolutely.
All right, Jay, was this played in your youth group?
No. Would have been cool. Definitely not. I'm just going to guess this was not played in many youth groups because there's, and we'll get into this in a minute, but I think the record company was disappointed because there's not really a single really on this. So, yeah.
Yep.
Is there really?
I mean,
Mercury's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It doesn't have the banger. I mean, they're all bangers, but it's not,
right.
The banger.
There's no Newsboys Shine,
yes.
None of that.
Correct.
Right. All right. Well, before we dive in deeper, I'm going to ask everyone to visit our Patreon at patreon.com/YMSU to contribute and get extended episodes and also special episodes. I think we just had one come out, Jay, where we talked about... Crap, what did we talk about?
the music that damned us, right? Clifton, the secular music we weren't supposed to listen to, but we're doing anyway.
Very naughty.
Exactly. We talked about a song by Laptop called "I'm So Happy You Failed," which is a glorious masterpiece of petty spite.
Yes, it's wonderful.
And we have another one coming out soon. All right. Well, Jay, why don't you tell us a little bit about this band?
Yeah, I'll try to keep this short.
Yeah, your notes are real short.
Yeah, they're not. And Jeremy, feel free to jump in. But I just found so much. But to start off, the prayer chain was Tim Tabor vocals, Andy Prickett guitar, Eric Campuzano bass, and Wayne Everett drums. Band from Southern California, and I'm just going to read from Wikipedia right here. And it says the prayer chain was formed in February 1990. When Campuzano and Prickett's band Laughing Boy broke up at the same time as Tabor's band Tapestry. Campuzano knew Tabor through a Bible study group. Originally, Tabor sang and played drums, so drum machines were also used. And the band auditioned Wayne Everett to play drums later that year after meeting at a prayer chain show in California. Their first album, The Neverland Sessions, was recorded with Steve Hindalong at Neverland Studios and was released independently. And after signing to Reunion Records, which I'm just going to pause for a second in the quoting Wikipedia and just want to clarify, Reunion, if you didn't know, is like a really big Christian label.
Yeah.
This is a home of like Michael W. Smith, Rich Mullins, everything. So it's a little kind of strange for a band like this to sign with that. But anyway, they put out the Whirlpool EP in 91, started touring, and put out Shawl in 1993, which was the album right before this one. If I may read a little bit more, just to give you some more background on the band. This is from an interview with Tim Tabor on crosswalk.com. And this is about the greatest achievement of the prayer chain. This is what he said. He said, I guess I felt like we had a big effect on impacting the ability of a small to mid-level band to tour, especially an alternative band. We kind of pioneered that whole thing. I would venture to say that nearly every alternative band that's out there touring today honestly owes a lot to Frank Tate, who is the owner of 5 Minute Walk, Cerebellum Records, but also I will throw in was Prayer Chain's manager. Yeah. Yeah, so he says, I mean, Violet Burning did it across the country, but it was all vineyard churches and stuff. Undercover did one small tour, but we were one of the first bands to play like 108 shows and kind of developed a route and how to do it. I mean, other bands just wouldn't do it. They put out albums and play Cornerstone. He says, I mean, Mad at the World, Adam Again, all those guys. It was a huge thing at the time that we got to deal with Reunion. You had Brainstorm and Frontline Records, and that was it. Nobody thought it was possible for an alternative band to get a big label deal, and we did it, and we didn't let them turn us into another Petra or anything. We got to do pretty much what we wanted and stretch the envelope. So I think the whole reason that bands like Plank Eye, and he says not to take anything away from those guys because they're a great band, and all the Tooth and Nail bands can tour now is because the Prayer Chain went out there and proved it can be done.
Shots fired.
Yeah. So I've got all kinds of more quotes on the making of Mercury, so I'm going to just read a tiny bit more, and then I'm going to stop for a second and see if Jeremy or Clifton want to give any input.
I'm listening. This is stuff I haven't heard, so keep going.
Okay, good. Well, this is from their Bandcamp page, which, as Clifton pointed out, does have a lot of info. Very grateful to the band for doing this. But this is about the recording of Mercury. It says, and this is a quote from their page, it says, in the summer of 94, we drove out to Nashville to record our follow-up to Shawl. Steve Hindalong and Derry Doherty of the choir had moved their studio from Southern California to a spot in the eastern downtown area of Music City, and were just finishing up as we arrived. Chris Colbert was still wiring things together the day before, and the paint still smelled new. But all was well. Custom ancient Neve console, Studer tape machine, U47 microphone, extensive pedal collection, giant Tannoy monitors. We wanted to make a very sonic recording, and there were no better people to do it with.
Amazing.
Steve had previously joined us in California for a few days to help us pull all the songs together. We had a handful of solid song ideas and a bunch of scraps. Mercury was written in these pre-production sessions, as were a few others. Steve left with some understandable hesitations, knowing that we were about to hit record on Reunion's dime, and had a very thin amount of material to depend on. All we really had was a very large collection of cassette tapes that had all of our songwriting sessions and rehearsals and pre-production on them, which got stolen right out of our van when we showed up in Nashville.
Damn.
Yeah. Okay, a little bit more. Again, I'm sorry. I normally episodes I don't read this much, but I just found so much good stuff for this album. This is with an interview with Eric Campuzano on somewherecold.com, and I pulled this from like way back in Internet Archive, so we'll link to it in the show notes. But he talks about the songs on Mercury, and he says, they were jams, but after we jammed, we made a very meticulous map. I think this story has been told many times. Mercury was written over many years. Mostly the prayer chain got together and hung out at Tim's house and wrote the music and melody on djembe, guitar, bass. The prayer chain premise was to make a record that came from the earth. He says, I know how contrived, but again, at least we tried. All of our beats and rhythms were derived from Aboriginal music, with the exceptions of Water Dogs and
Grilliad?
I never knew how to say this song. Grilliad?
I think so.
Grilliad?
I'm not sure.
Grilliad? The rest was pure. The only song we copied was Water Dogs, a Curve ripoff that most people thought was a crappy U2 ripoff. The rest of the record was saved via Steve Hindalong and Chris Colbert, who encouraged us at any cost to make this record. Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to... Clifton's looking at my notes like, oh my God, is he going to stop? All right. Finally, listen, I'm just going to quote Chris Colbert, which I know, Jeremy, you just talked to him, so feel free to add any other info that you learned. But this is from an interview also with Somewhere Cold, Chris Colbert. This is from about maybe 2000, 2001. He says, a good record takes a little conflict. Mercury was it's bleeped out, but I'm just going to assume he says fucking war. You can hear the band break up on the record. You can see them extend a warm and heartfelt middle finger to the industry.
I agree with that.
It started off with a lot of hope and expectation, trying to escape the grunge tag they got from Shaw. First couple weeks were great. It was Wayne, Eric, Andy, Steve Hindalong, and myself. The drones were taken seriously. The Verve and drummers of Burundi were blasting through the big speakers. There was some strong drink. We were left alone. After this couple of weeks, Tim showed up. Then the label started to hang around the sessions. This is when the war began. Tim and the label versus everyone else. He said, don't get me wrong, I love Tim, but he loved the rock star aspects of the Shaw era while the rest of them wanted to be taken seriously as artists. Their quick rise and success kind of alienated them from a lot of musicians who had paid their dues but received no glory.
Chris said that. Chris was... it really bums me out, I'll be honest with you guys, because it's going to bum you guys out, because we actually didn't talk about this record a ton on the episode. Unfortunately, I want to do another one with him about this episode at some point, but he went on to tell me some things like kind of similar to what that is, and I'm glad you read that because I didn't want to spill beans of sorts. But he basically said that the band was in the studio with Steve and recorded these songs, and Tim didn't even come in until 2 weeks later, something of that nature. And there definitely was I don't know how to say this. There was definitely a not on the same page vibe, I guess, is from what he said. Again, this is just paraphrasing. But Tim was a mastermind at promoting this band and making this band his, kind of his living per se, if you will. And the rest of the guys, they're all just so equally talented in all shape and size of it all. But what I'm trying to get at is he basically said there was not only tension, but there was just a lot of, like he said, I guess war is a good word, without obviously not being there. There was just a lot of tension, a lot of misunderstanding. It sounds miscommunicating, that type of thing is kind of what I'm grasping from the conversation. But I text actually Tim Tabor the other day and told him I had him on, and he was like, Mercury would not be the same without Chris Colbert, which to me, he's an unsung hero for sure on this record.
Yeah, for sure.
And actually when they pressed the record, he told me this, they left his name out of the liner notes, is what he told me.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and he was like, yes. Now, granted, it's been repressed, so I don't know if it was on the second one, but he's like, yeah, I opened it up and was like, oh, cool, my name's not there. And, like, when you hear him, granted, we don't talk about this on the episode, this just kind of was off, and I was bummed that I didn't have it on, because, trust me, it was a cool conversation, and there was just a lot of meat there that I can't, say because I don't remember. I was just in awe, like, whoa, this is so crazy. But he wasn't talking smack by any means. He wasn't, hating or anything like that. He just was like, yeah, I was really bummed about it, that type of thing. But man, I think like in the notes here, like you said, they wanted to make an organic record. I mean, this is a dirty record, a very dirty record. And I mean that in the organic way.
Yeah.
It is. I think they achieved it 100%. This, all I knew, obviously, like anyone else before Mercury, was Shawl. And I liked Shawl. I didn't love it, but I liked it. I thought it was good. I loved that song 58 on it. Mm-hmm. There's a couple other good songs on it. But Mercury was like a seismic shift for me musically. I was into hardcore, but I also got into Starflyer and all that stuff as well, that was kind of coming out at the time. And so this record was just pivotal for me, and it opened my door to Jesus and Mary Chain, My Bloody Valentine, Slow Dive, like all these bands that, I didn't know because I was in this world of, Petra, which I still love Petra, I'm not going to lie. Carmen, Michael W. Smith, Amy Grant, that whole world. I still have love for those songs, I was jamming Go West Young Man today with my wife just because it's nostalgic, it's got good hooks on it.
Fair.
But yeah, I mean, this record just really grabbed me by the balls. Like, I really was just, like, floored by it. Like, I'd never heard anything like it. And, like, again, they're influenced by these other bands that wound up blowing my mind even further, It's like, this was a gateway record, for sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can jump to this, Clifton. I'll leave out the last part of my extra long notes, but like Jeremy, you just kind of answered it. Like your first experience with the record, it sounds like it was a real. Did you like it immediately when you first heard it?
Yeah.
You're like,
absolutely. Okay. So my mom worked at a Christian bookstore.
Oh, and
I remember seeing an ad for it in HM or Heaven's Metal or whatever. Yeah, whatever it's called at the time. And I always I loved Shawl. It was still kind of, I didn't love it, but I liked it enough. My buddies and I, we loved like, Prayer Chain, Dig Jesus, all those alternative bands. And so I remember specifically that when the day this record came out, my mom, I was like, Mom, you have to buy this record for me. I want this record. And she brought it home for me, which was really cool. And I remember popping it in my CD player, and I didn't know what to think. I liked it, but I was just like, it was so different than the grunge, like you said, which again, I wasn't even a huge grunge fan, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I didn't like grunge really at all. Like, my buddies and I wound up getting into like hardcore and stuff, in high school per se. And, of course the other bands. And I was so not opposed to grunge, because I was in 96. So Nirvana was massive, Pearl Jam was massive, all that. And I was just kind of like, it's not my bag, baby. Like, but the older I get, I appreciate it a lot more than I did when I was just, hardcore 24/7. That's really, but with the dash of Prayer Chain and Starflyer, that type of thing. And then now it's complete opposite, like as the older I get, it's like, it's flipped. But, I remember specifically my mom buying this and bringing it home, and I was psyched and stoked. And I remember listening to it, and there was just something about it. It was, again, a gateway record for me, and I think it just opened my eyes, to this, like I didn't like secular alternative bands, but I loved, after this, I delved into the Smashing Pumpkins. I delved into, these bands that they kind of, I had read interviews and stuff that they kind of were citing these bands. And so I kind of was like, oh, cool. I'm going to check these bands out. And I'm, under, I don't think my parents knew. I think I was still 16, or I don't even know when did it come out? 95? Okay. So I was 17. I graduated in 96.
Okay.
And then I wound up getting to see them. I mean, on that tour twice, actually. Saw them with Starflyer, 59.
Which is
amazing. An unbelievable show. I got a crazy story about that show too, if you are okay with it.
Yeah. Is this the one in West Virginia?
Yes. Okay, this is bonkers. So I go to this show. My buddies Aaron and Andy, I gotta plug them. They're lifelong friends and homies forever. Two of my best friends in the whole world. And we were the guys that were into hardcore, but we were into these other bands. So we lived in Maryland at the time, and there was I think we went to Morgantown, which is about an hour and a half away. And we drove to this show, and I'll never forget the day of it because it was the day that the Oklahoma City bombing happened. But I didn't know it happened till I got home because there was no social media and there was just no, none of that stuff. Didn't know. I wasn't aware of it. So anyway, it was that day. We went to the show, and it was this church, and it was cool because we saw all the guys from the prayer chain like loading all their stuff in, and we're like geeking out, like, oh my God, this is amazing. And of course, Starflyer had just come out. I think they had been out. I think Silver had been out for a while because I think it was in between Silver and Gold. So I go to the show, and we're standing in line, and there's this guy that's behind me, and he's like, "Hey man, you want to check out my band?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, sure. What is it called?" And he's like, "Zayo." And I was like,
"Oh wow."
I was like, "Oh yeah, what's it like?" And he's like, "We're like a hardcore band." And I was like, "Oh, what's your name?" He's like, Jesse Smith. And so I was like, "Oh, hey, that's cool." And he's like, "Do you want to buy it?" And I was like, "How much is it?" And he's like, $4. So I remember being like, I don't know. And then I was like, all right, I'll buy it. So I bought it. I lost it stupidly.
Oh man, was this like a demo tape?
It was the original demo.
Oh
the original
my gosh.
I had it. And in fact, it was in my storage stuff, and I somehow it got lost or whatever. I'm bummed that I lost it. Trust me.
Wow.
But anyway, I bought that. So we talked to Jesse, and I want to say one of the other guys was with him. I don't remember who. This is before Sean was the singer. This was when Eric was the singer. So we're talking to Jesse. He's super cool, super engaging. Like, we just have this awesome conversation. It's really cool. Then this other guy comes up, and Jesse's like, "Hey, what's up, man?" And he's like, "Oh, hey." And it was, he was like, "Hey, you want my demo of my band?" And we're like, "Sure. How much?" And he's like, "Oh, it's free." So he gives it to us, and we're like, it's a band called 7 Day Jesus. And
whoa.
Yes.
Damn, man.
Me, dude. And here's the irony. 7 Day Jesus and Zayo were homies. Like, they were like...
So weird.
Think about the dichotomy of that. Like, think about it. They were playing shows together. They knew each other. And it was just so weird and bizarre. And at the moment, we had no clue,
right.
Like, what was happening. But we stayed in touch with Jesse after that. And my friend Aaron went on tour with Zayo as a merch guy eventually later on down the road. And it's super bizarre, but I'll never forget that show. It was an unbelievable show. I mean, like, Starflyer 59 playing silver and gold songs, and then the prayer chain. Oh, this is another little side tidbit. Starflyer, the bass player was Gyro from Mortal, was playing bass, and then Wayne Everett was playing drums. So it was kind of an all-star.
Yeah,
it was kind of it was pre-Americana. Essentially. Yeah. And then, like I said, Gyro played, so we were freaking out that Gyro was there. We were like, oh my God, like, he's a god as well. Like, all these gods in one place. It was just crazy. And so, never forget that show. It was mind-blowing. I was bummed. They were selling the Mercurius 10, so, like, they did a Mercurius record, and it was in a 10 CD case, and it was, like, I think at the time, probably $30. And at that time, I was...
Right.
17, and it was just like, I didn't have that much money. Regret not buying it. But that wound up being Antarctica, essentially. I think most of it was, at least. But I remember they were selling it, and I remember buying I still have my Prayer Chain shirt. I should have grabbed it. Dang it. I have a Prayer Chain Mercury shirt, and I think they signed it, and there's all the dates on the back. Oh, wow. Yeah, it's pretty freaking cool. I'll send you guys a picture of it later.
Okay.
It's really cool. But yeah, man, I'm sorry I'm talking so much, but I get psyched of thinking about that because it really was just a formidable show for me. Like, a show that really, it's probably in my top 5 shows I've ever seen. And it's funny because there was like 100 people there,
Yeah. You mentioned something, just final history of the band and album stuff, Clifton, right. Final. You mentioned Mercurius, and I guess the thing to say is basically like when the Prayer Chain... finished recording this album, sent it off to Reunion. Basically, the way Bandcamp, I'm just retelling it on my own now, the way they tell it is basically somebody from the label flew out to California immediately and was like, we need to talk. And basically sat down and was kind of like, what have you done? and I'm really paraphrasing, but basically like made them record some new songs to stick on the album. And so Mercurius, which later became So That Antarctica, is like some of the original songs from this album. I think maybe one or two others that they recorded as kind of extra. And then Mercury, as we have it, is like mostly stuff they recorded originally. Sky High, that we're going to talk about tonight, was extra. I think that might have been the only extra song, but there were other songs originally recorded for this that didn't make it out, that finally came out later on it. Which
I absolutely love those songs, by the way.
There's some
it's funny
really
because
good ones on that.
Those are the hooky songs, if you will.
Right.
Those are the... It's ironic.
Really kind of weird what they decided, like, this will make it. So anyway, this album, probably as it was released, was probably a bit of a compromise, might not even be the right word. I don't know. The band may not have been happy with it, but this was what was put out, finally, that the label allowed to come out from the recording of this.
Yeah, well, the label was dumb.
Yeah.
Well, it was on Road Dogg, which is like a subsidiary of Reunion. And I think the guy who ran that was like their tour manager or somebody. Man, I cannot remember the guy's name. I remember it was like Taco or something, like one of those names like that. No, for real. Like I remember reading, I was so like obsessed with that band back in the day when Mercury came out. So I think it was his name. I could be wrong, so I apologize if I'm wrong. But I think he like started the Road Dogg label because I think Reunion was like, again, this is just an assumption, but I think Reunion was kind of like, and they were like, look, let's start a imprint, so it's kind of got some cred, if you will. You know what I mean?
It's not Michael W. Smith's label.
Yeah, you're not going to see the prayer chain on like an ad in CCM magazine. Or, they wanted to market themselves in a different way, obviously, and I think that was kind of their way of detaching themselves from the major label disaster that obviously, was impending.
So, Jay, when did this album come into your life?
It's funny. I don't remember it as clearly as Jeremy. I do remember, probably because it was Reunion, it had a ton of ads and stuff. I felt like this was really promoted in the Christian scene. And so I definitely picked it up sometime around then. But unlike Jeremy, I'll be honest, at first I was kind of like, I don't know, like, it's, because it didn't have any like real hooky song. Like nothing really grabbed me. So I was kind of like, whatever. I mean, this is the same summer, like going back to like Johnny Q. Public came out with like, Body Bee or something, so I just remember
Hooks.
being like,
Hooks.
like meh. But this is one of those that over time, even probably to this day, every time I come back to it, I'm like, oh, damn, this is like, I hear something I haven't noticed before. I'm like, I really liked it. And so it's just grown on me over time for sure.
Clifton, I want to know your opinion on it.
Yeah, Clifton, you'd never heard it till we recorded this.
So I remember this album being promoted in the magazines, but I don't remember seeing it in the Mardell bookstore in my hometown. Yeah, So I've never heard this until this week. Yeah, we'll hear more of my opinion as we go through, but it's
all right.
It's good. It's definitely, you can see where they are forming kind of the Lassie Foundation ideas here.
Yeah.
I agree.
Let's jump into the first song, Hum.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like immediately you could tell something is going to be different, right? It starts with like, I wonder if it was an organ. It's a drone sound eventually. Yeah. I mean, that's the easiest way to say it, but I'm not sure what instrument is actually making that sound. And it's not until like 35 seconds in that you even hear like slight vocals in the background. Finally, about a minute in, a bass line comes in, which is the same one that's going to repeat in Sunstone to close out the album.
Yeah.
And it's like about 2 minutes in, Tim's vocals come in, and they're hard to even understand what he's saying. It's like kind of buried behind the drone kind of thing. In fact, I could never really tell till I actually looked at the lyrics. And it's just kind of a droney thing. Drums finally come in about halfway through the song.
Yeah.
Bass does, then it stops, then guitar, then drums back, then this like weird stereo effect back and forth in the headphones. I mean, it's just kind of like building up, stuff's cutting in and out all over the place. Finally kind of gets full band towards the end of it and then just fades out again. It's out of all the songs we're going to talk about tonight, I mean, this might be the least song-like.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they probably got stoned and just wanted to make like a My Blood. For real. Like probably were smoking something and they just turned their amps way loud and, just went. I mean, obviously there's, there's an end game to it, but like, I feel like they just wanted to like, I don't know. To me, I think they just were like, again, they mentioned Jesus and Mary Chain. They mentioned My Bloody Valentine, Slow Dive, like all these bands. I think that was kind of their way of incorporating that into this record. And they were obviously influenced by it. Mm-hmm. I mean, at the time, there was no other Christian alternative bands other than Starflyer, which was before that. Or I guess it was after that. I take that back. So, like, it just...
They're probably recording around the same time.
Yeah, but it's like, there wasn't many bands that sounded like those bands I just mentioned at all, really, with the exception, again, of Starflyer, but it's like, they were into stuff that we probably weren't allowed to listen to,
Yep. Exactly.
and I'm grateful that they were, because, some of those are my favorite bands now, Yeah.
Not just secular music, but like the secular music you couldn't find in a small town.
Yes,
yeah, totally.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, at Camelot or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
So these drones that start off the song it's mostly guitar in this album. There's very little I think is not guitar. And it's probably just with a lot of reverb and chorus, and then there's definitely a tremolo in this one because it pulsates a little bit. But let's listen. We can't just do our normal thing where we listen to a little bit of something, because there's 38 seconds of just this pulsating overtones here before anything else happens.
It's brilliant.
See, they're over a minute in, and the bass finally comes in, right?
Dude.
Which, to be fair, you can imagine their record company like listening to this and going like, "What the hell?"
Meanwhile, I'm like, "What the hell?
Yeah.
Like, this is cool!" Like, it was insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a 14-year-old, I don't think if I had heard this, I would have appreciated
I believe that. I believe that.
There is one part from the Bandcamp page that you have on here, Jay, that I want to read, because you have to read this after you hear that part. It said, talking about the record label, they had high hopes for us being a commercial success, and we sent them an album that was CCM suicide.
Fair.
So true.
Intentionally. If our name was cursed around the office, it was justified.
Sounds about right.
Well, and we'll talk about this more, but that's the sense that I think is in this album. Is a little bit of like, we don't want to be like CCM Superstars. So this is a reaction to that. Also, the band is obviously having a lot of internal tensions.
Yeah.
So that's playing out in this. And in some way, like, all those tensions really make like a really fantastic record,
Absolutely. I think, I mean, and with Chris mentioning it recently, it was just like the tension was, I think, extremely palpable in the studio, but I think it, like you said, I think it made for great results. It made for, the tension was needed, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, man, freaking, I think most people, well, I want to say this. I do think this record, and I'm not trying to go off on a tangent here, but I do think if this record was not on Reunion Records and was not a Christian band, we're having a different conversation. And I say that because they put this record out to a small amount of people that got it, you know, and understood it. Mm-hmm. But the people that got it, it kind of changed their lives, like in you know, various ways, obviously. But yeah, I mean, we're not having this conversation. If this is on like Sub Pop or 4AD or something like that, this is another great record by a great band. You know?
Yeah, I mean, you know, My Bloody Valentine's Love Us had come out, 2 years before this?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so I mean, it's not like these guys are picking up the sticks 8 years later. You know?
Well, in that Hum song, you can hear like the My Bloody Valentine influence, and the Slow Dive influence, and the Jesus and Mary chain. Like, it's totally there.
Yeah.
So I think they just kind of were like, F you, CCM.
Yeah, and you know, I think there's a lot of cynicism in the CCM world, especially around this time. I mean, probably still today, but I don't really care about today. You know, where, with the Petch reference, right? Like, the people at the labels are probably justifying in their head, oh, let's get Christian music out to the kids. You know, so we need to put out, like, what's popular on the radio today, which no matter how you do that, it's going to be derivative and soulless, right?
Yeah.
To a large extent. And the Prayer Chain were not interested in being used as a vehicle for that, right? I mean, they're not interested in just listening to the radio, like, you know, like what I think Carmen did, which was just turn the radio on and be like, okay, got it. And like, Carmen turns the radio on for 30 seconds, like, right, got it, okay. And then, like, you know.
Hey, he sold out arenas. Just kidding. For free.
Yeah, right. True.
No, I get it. No, you're right. And you know, like you said with the career suicide, I think they just, at this point, were like, you know, maybe in their minds they were like, we want to get off this label, you know. And of course, you know, the tension between, maybe they just were like, hey, let's just go out with a bang, you know.
Yeah.
You know. But
even then, like, they still signed to Reunion. They didn't sign to like Alorma.
Yeah.
Or,
no, you're right. I mean, you're right. And I you know, if I ever get an opportunity to talk to them, I'm definitely going to ask them that 100%, because I've always been curious about that as well. And, you know, Tooth and Nail was around. You like,
at this point, but not when they signed. Right?
I mean, they would have been perfect for that. Like, you know,
and they clearly knew Gene Eugene. So, you know,
I mean, they were in the
Brainstorm is around
totally, and even like whatever the labels, Brainstorm or one of those labels. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, it almost seems like, you know, they were aiming higher than, you know, because I mean, I guess that was a pseudo major at the time, you know, and maybe they, you know, from what I've heard, I think they probably wanted, you know, Tim's always kind of the visionary in terms of like making the band big and you know, and that's pretty well discussed. And then the other guys, you know, obviously weren't as into that, it seems as though. So, you know, I mean, it's probably 4 different reasons, you know, why this record is what it is and what it was. But man, I'm grateful.
If you want to add in Chris and Steve, there's probably 6 different reasons.
Yeah, no, you're right. And they all have their own key components, you know. And it's, yeah, absolutely.
So about 2 minutes in, we actually finally get some vocals. So at this point on my first listen, I'm like, is this supposed to sound like a Catholic mass or something?
Yeah. It's got
fair. I mean, the the kind of the rhythm of the way he sings that right there does a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. And it's funny, I never thought of it that way. I always kind of looked at it as they had like some sort of influence, and like I think you mentioned it earlier, like I don't know how to say this without sounding stupid, but like almost like that African flair, that African, like the whatever that drum's called, I can't even think what it's called, but that you can hear it in the background. It's like it's that there's just that and I love that you brought that up because I've never thought of it that way, but it totally makes sense.
I mean, because it does, like, at first I was even like, is this in Latin? Like,
which would have been brilliant, to be honest with you.
Yes, it would have been.
I think it would have been even cooler.
Yeah. It probably would have been. If you read along with the lyrics there while you're listening to that, it's kind of funny. You got, like, his pacing on the on the words.
It doesn't totally fit. And I could never make out much aside from, like, the water. I could make that out and a few things. But, yeah, a lot of the lyrics, until I read the lyric sheet, I couldn't tell as he was. I wonder.
I'm sure they intentionally did that, and I say that because I think that whole song, it's called Hum. It's not like
with a B. Hum.
Yeah, and it's like humba. No, it's just very like. I mean, I think that it's intentionally dirty. Like it's intentionally, take it for what you can, and like like I told you guys earlier, I'm not a lyric person, I'm a music person, so to me I probably was just like, this is so badass, like
that's the other thing. At this time in my life I was definitely a lyric person, so if I'd heard this I'd been like, nope, I don't know what's going on here.
Can I get my $16 back?
Right.
Yeah, but they're based on what Jay read, it sounded like they recorded the drones first, so they knew this thing didn't get weirder as they recorded it, right? They went in there to record this album.
Yeah, in fact,
more or less.
My sense that I get is maybe this was actually one of the last songs, because it definitely, well, first of all, it must have come after Sunstone because it kind of carries that bass line at the beginning of this a little bit. And they talk it somewhere about, where's my notes? That I think they basically took part of this, they needed something for Cornerstone that summer, and so they kind of like made up part of this to like, they wrote it on the way there or something. So I don't know. My sense is that like this was maybe one of the later songs on this album, and kind of after they'd already kind of laid down a bunch of stuff.
I feel like when I saw them, and I really truly don't remember, but I feel like they probably played this first, to be honest with you. It was probably one of those like, you just kind of getting you into the moment, or getting you into the, the crescendo is building,
Right.
This would be wild to see live.
Oh, dude, it was amazing. I actually wound up seeing them at another time, that probably within the year or so, at a festival that a bunch of bands played at. And
I'm going to pick your brain for a second. Like, was it song, or was there like time in between the songs on drones and stuff?
Man, it was a lot of that, to be honest with you, now that you say that, because I haven't thought about it in a while, but it was definitely like, I mean, Tim talked, but it was definitely like, we're here to just rock. Like, and it was at a church. I think the first time I saw him was at like a Methodist church or something, and it was just like a rock show. It was like, hey, we're the prayer chain, a lot of feedback, a lot of, whatever you want to call it. And it was cool. It was like, I mean, I'm 17 and I'm like, God, yes, rock my face off. Like, this is so cool. Like,
yeah, I'm curious because like going to see like Animal Collective live or something like that, right? Probably half to 2/3 of that is actual songs, because there's time spent up in between songs building the drones and stuff.
Yep.
Like live for the songs.
Yep.
With loopers and things like that, right? So, anyways.
I have real quick, I have a side note. I'm sure other people that might listen to this podcast might relate to this. I don't know. Did you guys ever see Starflyer live at all?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Did you see the Americana tour?
I did see the Americana tour, which was great.
I don't know if he did the same thing. Wayne Everett played, and the whole concert, which I think to this day this is one of the most badass things I've ever seen in a show. But he literally, the whole show, they played their set, and he spoke in French the whole show. And I to this day think that is the coolest thing. And at the very end, I think he was like, "We're Starfire 59. We're doing this for Jesus," or something like that. Something of that nature. But the whole show was French, and I'm like, I'm gonna talk to like if I get a chance to talk to him, I'm gonna talk to him about that because I'm just like, that is so freaking cool. Like, and that kind of goes back to the Latin comment. That's kind of what jogged my memory about it. I think they just were. God, these guys are so on a different planet, like in a good way.
Yeah. Let's listen to how this song. This is kind of the crescendo of the song. I think that we're gonna play here about 2/3 of the way through.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, those vocals, until you said it, I hadn't thought about Clifton, but it sounds exactly like something from like Catholic Church, the way he styles it. In fact, Jeremy, if you ever get a chance, ask him about that because it almost sounds like that's where he took it from,
I'm glad you guys brought that up because I never equated that, to be honest with you. I just thought he was being cool, like, or trying to be cool. Like I felt like, and having talked to Chris about it, like he was telling me how there was just not on the same page, and it was like, it might have been, and he might have just been trying to like, add his touch to the song and it not be your normal, grungy, what he's known for in the past, and yeah, I mean, I love it, and I now that you say that, I wish he would have been in Latin. I think that would have been cool as hell. Like
that would have been.
Like, for real, it would have just been like... But, I mean, in 1995, are you kidding me? People would be like, what the hell is this? Like,
yeah, this is already weird enough.
Yeah. But, anyway, yeah, I digress.
So, at that point, kind of our guitars have kind of morphed into kind of like sitar sounding,
Yes.
Which is probably done with effects. The bass is just this low rumble, just like lower than I think it's tuned down probably, but it's just a low rumble. And the drums are just like this... I feel like this is going to sound racist, but this kind of like primal, just like, just kind of.
It sounds African, that, not African per se, but like, world.
Yeah.
World,
yeah. There's a lot of that on here. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's cool.
So this was not what I was expecting when I turned on the CD, I'll tell you that. Especially coming from their other albums, this was...
I told Clifton he had to listen to a little bit of the other two before this just to see the show.
Yeah, it's a different world. For real.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about lyrics, or should we keep going? Because it's going to take us 5 hours to get through this album if we talk about lyrics.
I mean, we'll just say that these lyrics are based off Psalm 136. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
look it up.
I'm into it.
All right. Let's move on to track 2, Water Dogs.
This is such a good song.
Yeah, I mean, and this one is like, so somebody from their Wikipedia, they have like a prayer chain wiki, not Wikipedia, but like a fan wiki thing. And on their wiki, it says the song was heavily influenced by the band The Curve and is the only rock song to appear on Mercury, which at first I was like,
what?
But then, like, the more I go back to it, I'm like, okay, I can see what they mean. It is definitely the most, like, upbeat.
The most driving.
It's also kind of maybe the shortest.
Yeah. But, like, Sky High is a hard rock song. Like, it may be weird and wandering,
but it's grandiose.
Song.
It's like very, epic.
This just kind of starts in, like, with drums and guitar, and it kind of comes off well from from Hum. Like, it just, like... is a nice kind of follow-up, but it's like straight in with those drums.
Yeah.
And it's 2 sets of drums.
It's much more traditional song structure. Like,
I was gonna say, it sounds like the old the closest thing to the old prayer chain on this record probably is this, just that rockness.
But but as Clifton mentioned, you're right. Like, there is like another set of percussion or something going on, even at the very beginning of the song. Because I remember listening, going like, "What is that sound?"
I remember now that you say that. Yes, when we saw them, they had a percussion guy with them.
Oh.
Yes,
I was gonna ask,
and he was in the Violent Burning. I think.
Okay.
I think so.
That makes a lot of sense.
I remember. I think his last name was Tubbs, or no, it wasn't that. But anyway, they did have a dude, and I actually used to follow him on Instagram, and I cannot remember his name right offhand. But yeah, they had a guy percussionist that was doing like the bongos and all that stuff. So it was legit real.
As I made it through this album, I was like, do they have like the corny joke that came into my head was like Newsboys have a second percussionist,
Oh no!
It's like, do they have a percussionist on this album?
Yeah, for sure did. Absolutely.
Okay. So let's listen to that intro.
I love those drums.
So this is when I was like, oh, okay, I hear the prayer chain now.
Yeah. Fair.
Yeah.
But where I hear it is in the vocals.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, there's something quintessentially 80s about Tim's vocals. I can't tell you what it is, but it's just there.
Yeah, he's got a unique voice for sure. And I love it. I do like it, but I get it. Like, I totally... Like, I don't want to... I've heard from people... that, there was definitely a difference of opinion between the 4 or 3 and 1, I guess, if you will, and 3 versus 1 of the direction of the band. And it's like, again, the tension made it great, but it's like, you can kind of tell there's 2 different worlds going on somewhat, and he just tried to put his spin on it, which I think he did a fantastic job. There's some of these songs, his vocals are fantastic on it. I love. Yeah. But no, I get what you're saying. Like, he's just got that unique voice,
Well, and you bring up I'll follow that with a point I noticed, especially listening to this song, but it happens throughout this album. I think, like, and I don't know if you did this on this album, Clifton, if you didn't know, big deal, but I think if you isolate, like, if you took out his vocals, and just listen to the instrumental part behind it, it's like very different song. Like, his vocals have got this rhythm. He's kind of doing his own thing, but like, if you just listen, especially like the verses, the music in the background, it's like, it's weird. Like, it's not real traditional, like, pop melody, but he's kind of trying to make it that way with his vocals, but they're doing weird stuff in the background.
So let's listen through the end of the verse here and then into the chorus, and then let's do the same thing again with just the music.
Okay.
Pulling me under. Evident I feel the need for something pure. Evident I feel the need to know.
That drum, that tack, 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 tack.
Yeah.
Just cracks me up for some reason. All right, so here it is, just the music.
It's a really catchy song.
I was gonna say it's kind of like groaning guitars, you know, like it's just like they're not. This isn't like 1-3-4 1-3-4 something like that. This is just like guitars that are like
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And some of the verses on the songs, it's just like in the background, like they're not really even strumming. It's just like weird stuff like that. And what I was gonna say is, I realized as I was exploring this album, I was like, wait a minute, Eric Campuzano wrote like all the lyrics. And so then I was like scratching my head because I was like, wait a minute, Tim doesn't play an instrument. What does Tim do? But then I realized more, it's like he's the front man and he figures out how to put these lyrics over this music like we just heard in certain ways and stuff. And he's got the delivery and everything. And so, he's kind of taking this weird, like screechy, droning music and trying to put some melody over it. Yeah. And it's nice. It works really well.
Absolutely.
So the first 3 songs here is Creole the third song? No, it's the 4th song. So 1, 2, and 4 are mixed separately from the rest of the album. They're mixed by Gene Eugene in the green room. I wonder if there's a lead guitar there that also sounds kind of 80s to me. Let me go back a little bit here. That one that's like that one sounds like it's more traditional guitar. First off, I wonder if something like that was added later on to make it feel more like a song.
I know they definitely went back and added stuff in, and definitely like the background vocals had to have been added in later.
Colbert told me that they went back and added a bunch of stuff that really didn't change much, and he was like, I don't know why we did that. It was kind of like, and it wasn't a slight to those guys. He just was like, I think they were just trying to polish it as best as they could in terms of like the record company or whatever, because the record company wasn't psyched. They weren't stoked. So I think they were just trying to, polish a turd in their, in the record company's mind. But Colbert's like, we went back and changed stuff. And he's like, some of that stuff that should have never been changed. And, he had this great, the conversation when I had him with him off the record, it was just like, whoa, like fly on the wall, baby. Like, but he's so opinionated and so hilarious. And it was cool.
So in the chorus there, we're about to listen to the chorus again. The lyrics here in the book are, ever did I feel the need for something more? But I swear to God, he said something pure.
I think he says it in one of the lines.
It sounds like he does at least once. Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to listen here to a later chorus, which is kind of an extended chorus from that first one, and then into some fun, crazy guitar.
I love that bass though.
Really fun, but I also feel like this is more recognizable from someone coming from the grunge world.
Yeah.
Fair. I think that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and they, that was their world previous to this record, and I think I think you mentioned earlier, they wanted to, get away from that. So I'm sure they still had, those tidbits or those inklings of the past. And, too, they don't want to alienate their crowd completely, I assume. They wanted to still have kind of their fan base at least appreciate kind of what they loved in the past. And I'm sure that probably was part of their mindset as well. But, it definitely was a departure. But I love the guitars. Andy Prickett is brilliant. And I've always loved his guitars, but on this one, they just turned it up and just, they were they were just messing. I think Colbert was saying, I think he was involved doing it, and Hindalong and all them just turning knobs, man. It's apparent in the whole record,
All right, let's move along to the next song, Grilliad, maybe.
It's a great song.
This kind of starts. I didn't know how to describe this, so I said a recording sound like that. Like that. I don't know how to describe the sound that it starts with. And then it's just distortion again in bass and drums. And the guitar, though, when this one comes in, is a much more rhythmic kind of starting. It's not as much just like fuzz, like crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's that sound.
Those vocals are very like Stone Temple Pilots, right? Like
he probably was into that.
Yeah, there's an effect on them, like a digitized like reverb or something on them. I don't know.
No, I get that. Yeah, they probably were. I mean, I don't know if all of them were, but I bet he was into them for sure.
Yeah,
that's just a guess, but yeah, I love the way this song starts. It almost kind of reminds me of like a heavier hum. Like the band hum, but the song hum. It's just kind of the droney, I don't know, just slow burning song. And then, when, goes back to the guitars coming in that are, eclectic sounding, like we talked about in the last couple songs. It's just like, I don't know. They're painting a picture, the whole record's painting a picture, and it's just kind of interweaving itself in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, I love the way this song, it's such a good song.
And this one it's a more traditional song arrangement, for rock and roll. But I even had, I always take notes of, when certain parts of songs start. And I had a hard time being like, okay, is this a pre-chorus? Is this a chorus?
I was going to say, I'm not sure this has a chorus.
Right.
It's got a bridge type part that is probably the chorus.
Yeah.
But it's only once. I was noticing that too as I was going through. I was like, wait a minute, this is actually kind of a weird, I don't know. There's no verse, chorus, that kind of stuff in this one.
Yeah, there's one part where I think is the chorus, and I said my note to myself is kind of underwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's probably the chorus, even though they really only do it once.
Yeah.
But this album has a lot of parts like this, that line that says, give me a while and I'll show you how it feels. There's a lot of lines kind of like that in a lot of songs that they're just nice because you can make a lot of meaning out of it. You could apply that to a lot of stuff personally and just
Yeah.
I don't think that's what they meant when they wrote it, but for me it means this, and I'm connected to it, and yeah.
Totally.
They're very feeling based lines, and I think they know it because they have a tendency to repeat them. You know, this song also has a line that's repeated a lot. I've lost all continents, you've gone too far. I do want to read the lyrics of that little chorus there because it's kind of fun. It says, okay, crack the cricket's cackle. It's crawling up my spine. Spit on its head to see the sunshine. Give me a while and I'll show you how it feels.
Ooh, love that. I'm sure like you said Campuzano wrote the lyrics. I wonder, I'm just curious what Tim thought when he was about to sing them. And I don't mean that in a weird way. I'm sure he was just like, what the hell? Like, okay. And I think the way he wound up singing them on this is great. Like, it fits the song, you know?
It does. Like, I could see that performed as a much more in-your-face kind of chorus, but I kind of like the understatedness of it.
Yeah.
You know, I think the understatedness of it, I think both readings of the lyrics would be correct, but like when you're almost swallowing every line, it's not going to be as fun of a song, but it feels more true and emotional.
Yeah. No, I get that. Absolutely.
Just from the wiki, by the way, it says the lyrics use the analogy of being a bullied cricket. A cricket is a leaping orthopterus from the insect family Grilliae.
Which is by the way, it's in the liner notes. See here, guys?
Oh, never mind.
Yes, it is.
Did not know that. Thank you.
And it looks like...
and he says special thanks to Love and Rockets, and that's another part that Eric points out. Campuzano does it. This is from the wiki too. Campuzano does admit to borrowing the line, "Give me a while and I'll show you how it feels," from the Love and Rockets song "All in My Mind."
God, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And did you notice the additional vocal? Last name's Colbert. Oh. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, additional vocal by Karen Colbert. Interesting.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm gonna guess it's his previous wife.
I think so, right?
Interesting.
I don't know what to play next of this song because there's so much interesting parts to it. I think I'm going to go into... They kind of do the pre-chorus again here a little bit, and then go into some fun guitar time. I'm going to say that one on this album, by the way.
So one other thing from the wiki on this, it says drummer Wayne Everett played a violin solo on the track despite not knowing how. You could hear him on the recording laughing after he played it.
Wow.
Which I wonder if that's meant to sound like a cricket.
Maybe, because there's that weird stuff at the end.
Yeah.
That was it right there. That was a violin solo right there.
They're like,
yeah, that's what we just heard. Yes.
That song is the prayer chain going shoegaze for sure. Like, just, you know, at the end of the soaring guitars and just that, you know, wall of sound sounding part, you know, like when they're all just, I mean, you can tell the influence there. Yeah.
Yeah.
The last verse is, how happy are you now? I feel like the Grilliad, 2 inches tall or nothing at all. I've lost all continents. You've gone too far.
So one other thing to add, this is from interview with Eric on, I think that's Somewhere Cold page. We'll link to it in the notes, but he says the lyric was derived or based on the fact that Reunion Records wanted us to become the next Petra, We refused it, and as such, we suffered. As the main lyricist at the time, they made me feel like a loser, and on top of that, they informed me that I was not a Christian, and essentially I was going to hell, which our manager agreed because all of a sudden we were going to lose a ton of money, and even a member of our band agreed that I was a lost soul, and the result was that I lost all countenance, and they have gone too far.
Wow.
Good
The
God.
result, the prayer chain is dropped. He said, and Eric even says in this, I think this is the greatest song ever written by the prayer chain.
That's intense.
I know. I don't know if he'd feel like that now. I mean, again, I think he's writing this like 20 years ago, but it was pretty interesting to get that background of like, okay, this is a little bit about dealing with the record
That's amazing,
company.
though.
Wait, did they tell him he's not a Christian because he was doing a bad thing for the record label?
I mean, it's hard to tell. He says, they informed me that I was not a Christian and essentially I was going to hell. I don't know what that's based on.
I've heard there was things smoked at the time, which at that time was a faux pas, obviously.
But is Tim the one smoking them?
No, it was
Definitely not.
It wasn't him. It was the other three. In fact, I do remember seeing Wayne Everett, I think at a Starflyer show or whatever, smoking a cigarette at that time, and I was like, whoa, like,
I know.
How dare he? Like,
yeah, you see those Christian bands smoking. I remember that was a thing. Like, oh my God.
And Jason Martin, same thing. Like, but looking back on it, it's just ridiculous. But either way, I mean, I'm sure there was that, and like the tension we talked about earlier. I'm sure that what you just said is probably a good portion of the tension. Of the man, and it's a bummer because they're all. I mean, I think looking back on it, they probably don't feel that way anymore. I don't know who's sick, for real. I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
But, back in the day, I think when we're young and I guess more emotional, if you will, I'm sure there's things said and that probably were regretful at some point, Yes.
Well, I think most of the guys, I was looking back because on that one of the fan sites, it even had like their birthdays. They were born in like, I think 69 or 70. So they're about 10 years older than me. And so at this time, they're like 25, basically, when they're making this album. So like, when I think back to me being 25, oh my God.
Yeah, I didn't make the best decisions, say the best things. Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it. And the pressure of, again, trying to be the next Petra, but also wanting to have a lasting effect or a record that you're proud of, I'm sure that had, I mean, I can't imagine, again, it's not pressure as in like the world's going to end, but at that time,
but
that was
like
their money.
That age.
Yeah. Oh no, totally. And that was their income at the time, I'm sure, it wasn't a pleasant conversation at times,
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's move on to track 4, Creole.
Great song.
I love this song.
Yeah, it's great.
I love like so many of the songs on this, but this one has one of my favorite parts on the entire album. And I don't know, it's just a good one. I will say we had to drive to my in-laws this weekend. And on the way there, I was controlling the music on Spotify. And I somehow told my wife, I was like, do you want to hear something that we're going to talk about this weekend on the podcast? And I played this song and she was actually like, and she is not from this world, none of that. She was actually like, this is not bad.
That's awesome.
I was like, I know, see, right?
That's cool. My wife would be bummed.
Well,
but like,
it's funny. While listening to this earlier, I was scrolling through Facebook and someone said something to the effect on one of the groups. It's like, it's sad that Christians haven't written any good music in hundreds of years. And I was like, actually,
yeah. In 1995, they did. Actually, there's been plenty of that. There's been fantastic records.
No, this song starts slow. It's kind of got a fade in with drums and guitar. I note in my notes that within about the first minute, this sounds the most normal of any song, just like starting off. I don't think it ends that way, but at the beginning, it kind of has a fairly normal intro. This is another one that you can understand him saying slow, but I definitely could not make out all the vocals without the lyric sheet here. I feel like background music, this is a little more normal at this point in the song. Like, it's not like, you know, one thing or something. Like, it's like somewhat fairly normal instruments and stuff. It's
kind of pretty typical, like early 90s indie rock, you know, just like clean guitar, doing like a 2-note kind of, you know.
Lyrics are pretty repetitive with that slow part over and over, which is actually kind of nice. Yeah, this is another song that just kind of builds. Yeah. And my favorite part of the song is maybe like 3/4 of the way through, but it's just kind of slowly building towards something.
There is an interesting lyric coming up here. The next lyric, in fact.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, let's listen to it first. So that's slow surreal, slow gay, slow Creole.
Yeah, I don't know what that means, guys.
Yeah, me either.
I have no clue. No clue whatsoever.
Okay.
Well, hang on. So this is from Eric. So basically he says, the song is about identity and death. He says, all the old ghosts, and he says, a pure pop math song. We thought slow gay was going to be a real controversial lyric. No one cared. We also thought the bass changing every chorus would be real fresh. No one cared. In addition, we also thought it would be real cool that the bass played the guitar solo. Again, no one cared, and why would they? Who'd want to hear the bass play a guitar solo? And he says, we end the song with something Steve put together with his kids that sort of gave a vibe of the old ghost.
Oh, that's cool. I get that now. That's cool. I mean, they were just like, I mean, it's apparent when they were in the studio, they were just like, we're going to do whatever the hell we want. And, you know, yeah, I'm going to shred on the bass here, or whatever, you know, the solo on the bass. No, it's cool though. I mean, like, I've never heard, like, I'm glad you brought all this stuff up, because this stuff I actually didn't know. I've probably read a couple, you know, interviews and over the years and stuff, but that's pretty in depth. And like, I've always known those lyrics, but, you know, again, I didn't know what they were referring to. I didn't know any of that stuff, but it's crazy to, I mean, it seemed like they wanted to poke the bear a little, you know, and no pun intended, like, now that I say that, but like, you know, I think, like you said, they wanted to say something that was controversial, and it just went under the radar, it seems like.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm actually shocked Reunion allowed that to go.
Me too, honestly.
I wonder if there were just so many other things,
right,
to be upset about.
They probably didn't even notice. They probably didn't even listen to it. To be honest with you, they probably were like,
fair,
you know.
Yeah, they made it 30 seconds into the first track, and they're like, "What is this?"
Yes,
I don't recognize this as music.
Crazy.
All right, we're gonna listen to one of the choruses and then some of the fun guitar.
Would love to know what those recordings are.
That's a cool song.
Mm-hmm.
That's a cool song.
Clifton,
Yes.
even after that amazing part, I'm going to make you back up because I think you left out my favorite part of the song, which is right before that at about 3 minutes and 40 seconds in. I love when the bass like pulls to the front here. It is like... All right, here it comes.
That's so good.
That's probably my favorite part of the entire album.
Yeah, pretty great.
I feel like at that end part where all those like guitar crazy at the very end, I feel like I just see Andy Prickett sitting Indian style with his pedals, and just strumming and, turning the knobs, and they're all just like, hell yes, like, just, I don't know. And I want to say too, on a side note, I think this is one of Tim's strongest vocal performances on the record. I think he fits this song, not that he doesn't fit the other songs, but I think this song isn't the same without Tim on it, for sure.
Fair.
And I think the way he delivers the vocals in this song it's awesome. I think it's so good. It just fits it really well.
So the lyrics are, for this one part, is all the old ghost will let you know just how far gone you are. I always thought growing up it was just how far from God you are.
Trying to be Christian.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? I'm sure my brain was trying to make it that way, but just the way he kind of says it, that's what I always thought. So
you can hear it.
Yeah.
Go. I was gonna say it's probably those lyrics are probably in line with what we just were talking about of the, the distance from the label, and I mean it just sounds kind of like or like, hey, you're not a Christian anymore, or whatever that that conversation was. It just seems like it's still resonating in these songs, the further each song goes in the record.
Yeah, I'm really curious to know if they had the lyrics written by the time that Tim showed up, or if they're writing them still.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
That is a great question.
So some of the high-pitched stuff there at the end is kids screaming, and some of the high-pitched stuff at the end is just feedback.
Love that. I think that's cool. Like I always noticed that part of the song of the kids, at the end, and it just kind of got that. It's a very, I don't want to say it's a 90s thing, but it's very like, not your normal. It just kind of reminds me of the 90s. Just kind of like certain songs, and that's cool. I mean, I hadn't listened to this record in a while, even though it's one of my favorites. It's just kind of one of those I just hadn't listened to, and we were doing this, so I listened to it recently again. And I was just like, those little things that you forget about. Like, since we've been going through these, I'm like, oh yeah, these memories come back in my mind of, being a kid myself, essentially, it's crazy.
All right, well, let's move on to track 5, Sky High.
This is my favorite.
Now, this is one I know Jeremy wanted to cover, so I'll let him lead on this. The only thing I'll add is one thing I love about this is like the label was like, we need you to record some more songs because we don't
songs.
like what you have. So what I love is the Prayer Chain records this 8-minute long song.
It's
and
an opus.
Sticks it on here.
It is so good. I love the whole record, but this is the one when I was, when I first got the record, this was my favorite song. I don't know why. I cannot tell you why, other than it's just a grandiose song. It is like, start, stop, start, stop. And it's just, I don't know. I think it encapsulates the whole record in one song. And, you've got your slow burn, your epic, loud, chaos. I don't know. And the melodies in it is great. Lyrically, it's not my favorite, but it is, I don't know. It just kind of fits. The name kind of fits the song, Sky High. It's just very, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if you liked it I know you left it off your list, but this is the one for me that I've always just if I ever played a song from this record, this is the one I played because I feel like this is the one that most people would be like, whoa, that's cool. Not that the other ones weren't, but it's just kind of one of those, I think, that people would be like, oh, this is it's 8 minutes. That's cool. Like that type.
But it's 9 minutes long, so you can't put it on a comp.
Yeah. No. Or if you do, it's the last song or something.
The last song, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is ironic because it's not the last song on this, but
So my note on here is right in with some hard rock.
Oh yeah.
But it's really, I mean, it is super fuzzed out. Like, I mean, the guitar solo or the lead guitar and the rhythm guitar there are just like, just fuzzed out.
Yep.
Good old 90s. Gotta love it.
Oh yeah. And I know you guys are going to talk about the lyrics, but I always thought I know we didn't listen to that part yet, but I just thought how it just kicks in and then like it starts to quietly, and of course the vocals, and we'll talk about the lyrics in a second, but I always thought the first line of this song is so sick. I don't know why.
Me too.
It's so interesting, and it's something my 17-year-old mind had no clue about. You know what I mean? And I'm 45 and I still don't know, but I know more than I did. Let's just say that.
Let's listen to it, and then I'll tell you what I thought was going to happen.
So badass.
So the lyrics are, soothe me at the yucca's feet. Taste the sweet of salt and sand. Feel the burn, I know you can. Deep, deep in my mind. Hear about God's heavenly spies. Speak about rolling skies. Here comes the rust.
The first time I hear soothe me at the yucca's feet at 17 years old, I'm like, what? But I'm also like, that's so cool. Like, you're listening to Petra and you're listening to Carmen and Michael W. Smith and, you're starting to listen to these bands that are branching out a little, but it's like, what the hell's the yucca's feet? Like, at 17, that's like groundbreaking. Like, and lyrically, like, like, what? I think this whole record's that way for me. There's just certain lines that I'm just like, like when he talks about Yuri Gagarin, the cosmonaut, right? Like, which I know we'll get to, but it's brilliant. Like, anyway, no,
I thought this was going to be about drinking.
Oh, I didn't even
the yucca's feet, like maybe like like tequila.
I didn't even see. It's so crazy how everyone looks at it so differently. Like, I had no clue like what to think about it, and like I told you guys, I'm not a lyric guy, so. Yeah. When that grabbed me, I was just like, oh, that's just a cool sounding lyric. Like,
it is though.
You know? But now that you say that, it makes sense. Like,
but then the song really isn't about drinking, so I don't know what it's about.
Well, are you ready on more background?
Yeah, do it.
All right, from the wiki, it says the lyrics were based on an idea of drummer Wayne Everett's. Bassist Eric Campuzano says, For Wayne, he felt in touch with the infinite and his innocence at a place called the Salton Sea in California. He used this place as a metaphor to finding peace with God and a sanctuary from the rest of the world. The song is about finding peace and innocence.
That's cool.
Okay. Yeah. That makes more sense.
Right.
Yeah, that's rad. I didn't know that.
So, I mean, I feel like this song, like, you get to about like 4.5 minutes in and you think it's done, and it kind of cuts out, and then it just comes back again. Like, this is another one that just kind of keeps jamming.
Yeah. I don't know if that's what I like about it the most, but I don't know. I just think there's just that, I don't know, there's the one that's grabbed me of all of them. And it's funny because it's not the dirtiest and it's not the gnarliest, but it just, I don't know. It's just that epic. It's their Bohemian Rhapsody, you know, like, you know, and it's, you know, I mean that in a joking manner, but like, it's just their, you know, soaring song, you know?
Yeah. Let's listen to some of that. This is going to be about 3.5 minutes into the song when we get kind of our first, well, maybe second kind of everything fades out. I'm going to fast forward a little bit here.
Is that Wayne singing that part? The Salton Sea part? Is that Wayne?
There is a background, yeah.
Yeah, I bet you that is, because it doesn't sound like Tim. This guitar part is so good.
Did anybody else think he said water dogs?
I did too.
Right there?
I used to always think that. Yeah,
Good.
I did.
I was like, oh, a callback.
I
And then I
know.
look at the lyrics. I'm like, no,
I used to
never
think
mind.
the same thing. Listen, I think Tim's vocals are strong on this record, or on this song too, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think they almost make the song somewhat. And I know the song is incredible without it, but he does sound good on this song, and he does sound like he was meant for this song. Just his soaring vocals, a lot of it, which I really like. Yeah, and I love that guitar part at like just the melodic part at near the end. It's just so epic. And I also thought Heavenly Spies, that lyric, is such a cool band name that no one's ever taken. Man, that's such a, the lyrics in this, like we talked about, I always kind of just, I don't know what it was about it, but I just always kind of like grasped it.
These lyrics, for most of this album, the lyrics are like vague in a good way that like anybody can kind of put their own meaning to it.
Yeah.
And it's really nice. There's like, we're not covering Shiver, but like that song is like not vague, and I'm not a fan of, musically it's okay, but the more I read the lyrics, I was like, oh yeah, like this one. But yeah, most of these songs, this one included, are pretty vague, and like you can kind of like make it mean what you want it to mean, which is, nice as a listener.
You listeners might think that we're going to do every song, but we're not. But we are going to do the next song, which is Mercury.
I love this song.
Track 6.
Yeah, I mean, this one, I think, you've heard them all to this point. This one starts really differently.
Yeah.
Like, you hear this, you're like, oh, this is a shift, like, pretty much from everything we've heard from the beginning. It's this bass line that carries the melody in this, and it's just kind of like a steadily strummed guitar and maybe some kind of like tribal drums in the background, but it's very steady and just... I mean, you'll play it in a second, Clifton, but it's just, you can tell immediately that this is a different sounding song.
Yeah, it's feels very much like Here Comes Your Man on Doolittle,
Pixies.
where you're like, here's a different song,
Yeah, I see what you mean. Like, you've got all those, and then suddenly, like, the shift into the...
Yeah, all these songs have been taking
groovy.
music apart.
It's like a groove to it, yeah.
Right, that's a good way to put it, yeah.
Like, this bass actually sounds kind of poppy.
Yeah.
You burnt as the sun, as far as I can see. You've got as much feeling as Mercury is close to the Bering Sea.
And also, Tim's vocals here are completely different than everything. Like, this sounds like he's in the 90s finally.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. Well, it's probably the way they recorded them, too. I think it just sounds very like, it's not the rock band. This is just like,
It's a little more, actually a little more lo-fi instead of having that kind of digitized reverb to them to make them stand out and punch you in the face, Yeah.
Well, it's just, it's chill, like the music,
Yeah,
it is.
I mean, it's weird. This is kind of a weird song because, like, honestly, like, the beginning part, I'm kind of like, I don't know, this is a different vibe. I'm not sure I'm into this. But by the time the chorus rolls around, I'm kind of like, oh, okay, I'm liking this part. Like, it gets a little bit, it just takes a turn, and I like where it goes.
I'm going to disagree with Jay in saying that I like it all, but I think I like how it goes together. Let's listen.
Okay.
It takes years to get here. It takes years to get back all your feelings are streaming down your leg.
That was another line. I'm not sure how it made it in the album.
I really love that guitar solo. It reminds me of kind of like mid-career Starflyer, like which they weren't doing even at this point. They were still in their very much in their shoegaze era.
Oh yeah, Absolutely.
So that line there that Jay mentioned, that Jay commented on, is all your feelings are streaming down your leg, which is great.
Yeah. It's definitely they were pulling no punches on this, which I like. And again, it's kind of one of those things where you can take it for what it is, but it's like, yeah, man, 1995, a Christian alternative band writing lyrics that might or might not make sense, and it's like, it's just cool. Like,
yeah, you can see why they're listed as influences on so many of the bands we cover on this podcast.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then the next verse, or the next two verses, are incredible as well. Like, it's, anyway, go ahead.
I'm gonna skip over the verse, get to the instrumental part because I think it's fun.
This is the best part of the song.
Guitar time.
Yeah.
Streaming down your leg.
This part's so good.
I love all of that into those kind of lo-fi vocals right there. Just gorgeous.
I like the delicacy in his vocals.
Yeah, this is my favorite kind of like indie rock, indie pop type stuff.
And like, it takes years to get back just repeating that again. Another line that's vague that everybody's like, kind of everybody can put some meaning to. And so it just works really, really well.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a well-written song. Like, just, I mean, not that the whole record isn't, but this is just it's a sleeping giant for sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to listen to the end because I love how the song ends.
I always thought when he said those lyrics at the end, like, just, I love those lyrics. I quoted it earlier. I don't know what it is about it, but it's just like, who refers to a cosmonaut in a Christian alternative rock record? Like, I don't know. It just blew my mind. Like, it's so cool. And looking back on it, it's just, who fits that into a song? Like,
yeah. And the follow-up lyrics, all gravity is lost, so gone, so numb, so long.
Yeah.
And I love that it ends. Every time I listen to this song, I feel like the chorus is going to come back in, and then it doesn't. And so it feels unresolved. And I like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure the record company did not.
Yeah, exactly. They were like, what? This is the title of the album? And like, yeah.
Man, I love it. I think the tour was called 56 Million Miles Tour.
Okay.
Yeah, it was.
Shirt,
I think you're right.
On my shirt it said that. Great song.
So somewhere I actually do have a Yuri Gagarin here pulled up. Died March 27th, 1968. Was he one of the ones who died? First successful crewed space flight. Became the first human to journey into outer space.
I watched a documentary on Netflix recently with my wife, and I think they talked about him on there. It might have been one of the ones about U.S. going on. They talked about him, and every time I hear that name, I think of this song, like for sure. Like,
oh well, of course,
it just jogs that memory, you know. And then, to be honest with you, I feel like I probably may have heard his name in school, but most school things I just wasn't really into. But it's like, oh, the Prayer Chain said it. That's kind of cool. Like,
right.
Getting my education from rock bands, you know?
Well, all right. Let's skip to the unsung now.
So we're skipping a few. I will say I like song number 9 quite a bit, Bendy Line.
It's a great song. Love that song.
But I also like our podcast and don't want it to go on 3+ hours. So, but yes, it is definitely worthy. Like pretty much every song on this album is good, but like that one is worthy of checking out.
Absolutely.
But I feel like you have to do the last song, Sunstone, because this kind of like really encapsulates so much of the album in this song. It's got the drones. It's got just so much stuff. It's fun. Bottle cap. Yes, it's deep at the lung left in.
If you can't tell, they're using a like thunderstorm as a drone there in the background.
That's cool. Cool.
That bass line,
I love it.
Stays the entire 8 minutes, and for some reason it does not get old and works.
No.
Like
right.
Totally.
Yeah. What's the really long song at the end of Starflyer Fashion Focus?
Oh crap! What is?
Oh, I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, this reminds me of that at several points though, because I get very like not yet, but they're coming up. I get very Gene Eugene vibes at points in this song.
Yeah. I like, I mean, like you said earlier, like how you talked about Hum was probably written last, and it makes sense because I feel like this was, probably maybe a song they were jamming on as they were trying to find the new record sound, and it was just drony and dirty and, I don't know where in sequence they recorded this, but this might have just been like, this is the last one, and it's like, they recorded it and walked out of the recording studio and didn't talk for 6 months. It's whatever.
Right.
Like this is, and I don't mean that like they were angry, but they just were like, okay, we're done. Like this is done. But again, that's just me hypothetically thinking. This is, of course, ironically, because this is how the record ends. But it's just, great song.
Skip forward a little bit.
So I'll just say while you're doing that, it's only bongos and stuff right now.
Mhm.
You don't get a full drum set to almost 6 minutes in.
Right, yes.
Some nice hand claps.
I hate to pause it right here, but this is kind of as things are building a little bit here. But one of the lines there that I really loved is "Everyone drowns." He repeats it 3 or 4 times. It's
I like the guitar part too. Like not so much the quirky, sitar sounding guitar, but I like that.
Mhm.
It's that it kind of reminds me of The Cure a little, or like
Mhm.
Love and Rockets, like you said earlier. Just that late 80s
chorus and the reverb.
Yeah, and it really it's funny because the song doesn't seem like it has a ton of melody, but like that
Mhm.
guitar part just stopped me listening to it. I was like, wow, that sounds like The Cure,
Yeah. Or druggy Beatles years.
Yes.
So right there as the drums come in, like everything goes really weird. Like they take out like the bass and a lot of the treble, so it's just mids. Like, so it sounds like you're listening to it like in a tin can or something like that,
Crazy.
And over about the next minute, things kind of return to normal. Let me speed up a little bit.
Whose vocals do you think are those?
I
by
love
the
them.
way?
I don't know what it. I have no clue. It's almost like they're wailing. Like. so cool. Reunion Records. Like,
I know.
think about it. I mean,
Yeah.
that song is so good, and I guess it encapsulates the whole record as well. You know, if you think about
Right.
it too,
Mhm.
and they've always, you've always kind of read. I think you read it earlier too, but I did read this. It's like you can hear the band breaking up on the records written, and it's like, and not saying that song in particular, but it's like you can just tell there's just so much going on. Like, man, this is so cool to listen to this again. It's been so long, and it's like, whoa, this is so good.
The lyrics are sun stoned until it's drowned down. Sun drowns deep down in the flood. Feel the flood fall in. Sun blown so far away. Sun shone the face of the flood. Feel the flood fall in. Sun stoned. Everyone drowns.
Mine says everyone dies.
Mine
but I don't
too,
know.
but he doesn't say that, so I changed it.
Ah.
Yeah. These sound like Lassie Foundation lyrics.
Yeah, I could see that.
Interesting. Yeah.
I think even the background vocals early in the song sound like Wayne singing, like just that high harmony.
So there is someone else singing on this song. Just a vocal by extra vocal.
Andy.
By
Oh,
Andrew.
so it's Andy. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is the main singer on this.
Oh, on this one?
Like,
Okay.
on this song. Yeah, when you listen to it.
Now that you say that, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because I remember listening in the car earlier this week, and I was like, I don't think that's Tim. And then I checked, and yeah, it's actually Andy singing. They've said recently when they've done the song live, Tim does sing it, but it's actually Andy on.
Wow.
This, so.
Okay. Interesting.
That's cool.
Well, what do you guys think overall? Not that we haven't talked about it a ton.
Man, I think this album is great. Like, it's such a good album. It, like, I don't know. Yeah, everything is great. I mean, I have a few little nitpicky things. I don't think it's like perfect or anything, but like, it is such a good album. We haven't talked about this yet, but I even think the cover art is nice.
Yeah,
like, I think it
great.
actually kind of reflects the sound.
Totally.
Like, I just think it all works really well. I mean, I think that I'm looking at the cover art now on your screen, Clifton. I'm like, I think I'd like. Okay, it is very 90s-ish, but at the same time, I'm like, I think it holds up
But
like,
not all of
pretty
it.
well.
Like, the font is pretty 90s-ish, but I think the rest of it's...
Yeah, the rest of it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are like forks on the bottom or something, I think.
Yeah.
Like up
Plastic
close.
forks,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, this is a gateway record for me. And if this record doesn't exist, then, all these other bands that I love now are not in my life. And, I think it's a masterpiece. And I say that, I don't say that very often, but I say that because I think for the select few that got it, this is a transatlanticism. This is a, one of those records, Diary, or How It Feels to Be Something On.
Yeah.
This is in the Christian rock world. This is like upper echelon, on Rushmore of records like that. Like, it's just so innovative at the time, and it's mysterious, and I think that's what I love about it. And again, it just brings me back listening to this with you guys. It just brings me back to being 17, sitting on my bed, listening to this record and looking at the liner notes. I just think about that. And then my buddies and I just getting obsessed with it and driving, a couple hours to go see them. And it's just like floods these memories. So like, I definitely have a kinship with it, and it's, to me, and it's in my top 10 records of all time for sure, just because of what it meant to me and what it still means to me. I just, man, I'm just, whew, yeah. I mean, there's definitely things that could obviously be changed about it, but it's like, we mentioned earlier real quick, I just wanted to briefly say, like, the couple of the songs that they left off, I don't know if it would have changed the record per se, but that song Chalk and Loverboy, those are great songs and they're more hooky, but it's like, I guess now that we've listened to this again, it's like, I don't know if I want those on there, even though I love those songs, you know? Like, I like how the bookends of the record, you know, like...
Yeah.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, it starts with Hum, it ends with Sunstoned, like, both fit really nicely. Yeah, you need that.
For the album artwork, the insert, like what's behind the CD, there was a clear, CD holder thing, and then there's this picture of like alien eyes. And at the bottom it says "See you soon."
I used to have that shirt.
Pretty great.
They had a shirt with that alien.
Nice.
Yeah. It was a ringer shirt, like with a ring around the sides. And
Very nice. Well, Jay, you want to tell us where these guys are now?
The Pearl Chain broke up in 1995. Technically, their last show was on December 20th, 1995. And that show was recorded, and those songs, along with the new songs that the Pearl Chain recorded for Mercury, and with those that got dropped that were supposed to be on this album and were put on, all got released as Antarctica in 1996. And the Pearl Chain is reunited for a few reunion shows over the years. Just according to Wikipedia, it says after disbanding, the band performed at a reunion show in Chicago in 98, the Gene Eugene tribute show in 2000, some local California shows, 2003 reunion shows at Cornerstone Festival and the Flevo Festival in the Netherlands. And then in 2018, the band did 2 reunion shows to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Shawl. And I'm going to stop right now and say, I would love for them to do reunion shows for Mercury.
They got a year to plan it.
Please. Totally. Yes. If you want to do 30th anniversary next year, oh my God, I will be there. And here's my request even more. I'm going to go out and say, like, the same tour Jeremy saw, why not recreate that? Man. Let's have Prayer Chain, Starflyer 59, and Luxury.
Yeah.
In fact, they could all play like their 95 albums. Luxury plays Amazing and Thank You. Starflyer 59 plays Gold, and they play this. Oh my God.
Mind-blowing.
Like, yeah, I'm there in a heartbeat. Wherever it is, I'll be there. Like, that would be amazing.
I have that poster too.
I mean, yeah, I think you sent a photo of it. It's like, it's amazing. Like, what a lineup. And all three of these bands, well, Prayer Chain doesn't really exist anymore, but they get back together for this. All 3 of these bands, like, could do this. Like,
totally.
It would be
They could do amazing. A Nashville and a LA show easily.
Oh my God, please, please, please. But anyway, getting back to the Prayer Chain, what happened afterwards? So all of them have gone on to do multiple projects. And some of this I'm taking from an old Prayer Chain website called Psychoflange, and the Prayer Chain wiki will put links to it. But according to this, Tim Tabor, so he ran Floodgate Records and something called Transparent Artist Management. Yep. And according to his LinkedIn, he's also a partner at Dick Church's restaurant in Costa Mesa, California. And is a partner at the Goodness Agency, which, according to their sites, it says we connect causes to leaders and their audiences to create the lasting impact of goodness. Andy Prickett went on to play with the Violet Burning, Kush, and Starflyer 59. He ran Northern Records, did a lot of production work, including Sometimes Sunday, Bloomsday, The Autumns, Kevin Max of DC Talk, and even One Republic, actually. And he's still got a website up that is andyprickett.com. Eric Campuzano played in Kush, Charity Impressa, which is his drones project, and he just put out a new album in 2023 with that. And the Lassie Foundation, and he also ran Northern Records with Andy Prickett. And then Wayne Everett played with Starflyer 59 on Americana. We talked about that earlier. He did the Lassie Foundation. He's put out 2 solo albums. He's also worked as a substitute teacher and now does creative direction and copywriting. So lots of history, lots of stuff with all those guys. They've done lots of other bands that I encourage everyone to check out.
So good.
Very cool. All right, Jeremy, well, thank you for joining us for this very special episode of Adoring This Album.
Yes, man. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. I'm really honored. I've listened to your podcast in the past, so when you guys messaged me, I thought it was really cool. And again, I'm really honored.
And Jeremy, if people want to hear your podcast, The Rumors Are True, what do they need to do to listen to that? Where can they find you?
Great question. I'm usually just on Facebook and Instagram. I don't have time for anything else, but it's at The Rumors Are True Cast. I also have a what am I thinking? I'm thinking of Linktree, but that link is on the Instagram and the Facebook. And I generally, try to, I feel bad. Sometimes I feel like I spam too much, but I just really want people to listen to people's stories. And that's kind of why I kind of do what I do. It's not about me, like trying to say, oh, look what I did. It's just, hey guys, you like, this band, you're probably going to like this conversation, that type of thing. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So Facebook, Instagram's the main way to do it. I have an email address. The rumors are truecast@gmail.com. If you'd like to email me and tell me my show sucks or whatever, it's fun. But anyway, no, I've had nothing but great things. People have been so kind and really cool. So I'm really thankful for it.
Cool.
Great, man. Well, thanks so much for joining us. This was really fun. We're really happy to do this album. And happy you're here.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. You roll.
All right, Jay, what are we doing for our next episode?
Jeff Moore and the Distance, 1993, their album Evolution.
Yeah. Maybe. We're going to no, we got to commit to it. We have tried to do Jeff Moore episodes in the past.
We're going to do it, y'all. We're just, pray for us. Clifton and I are gonna we're gonna brave it.
We'll have it recorded before this even comes out, so it won't even matter.
Whatever. All right, we'll do it.
But yeah, so we're gonna do Evolution, their 1993 album. I'll save my stories for the actual podcast because
okay.
Whew, man, young Clifton. All right.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Your Music Saved Us.
If you enjoyed your time with us, please leave us a review or share this episode. Visit patreon.com/YMSU to contribute and get extended episodes. Visit our website, yourmusicsavedus.com, to find out all the ways to listen. We're on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Join our Facebook group or follow us to keep up with the latest or interact with us. Send complaints and disagreements to yourmusicsavedus@gmail.com.
The music in this episode is the work of the artist The Prayer Chain and is used with apologies, not permission. And The Prayer Chain does have a pretty good Bandcamp with lots of their stuff to purchase, so please go check it out.
Yeah, including that Mercury. What's the thing that didn't become? That kind of became Antarctica.
It's kind of cool. So they if you go to theprayerchain.bandcamp.com. The album on there listed as Communion is Mercury as it was recorded, meant to be, kind of thing. So the songs are a little bit, even some of them are a little bit different order, and then it's got some extra songs.
And then Mercurius is on there as well.
Yeah, and then Mercurius is like all the extra stuff. Mm-hmm. So all the stuff that didn't end up Lover Boy, Friend or Foe, some of these songs that never ended up on stuff is there. And you can also check out Antarctica, which was some of the extra songs plus some live stuff.
They have live 25th anniversary concert for Shaw.
Yeah, there's actually it's kind of cool. As a music fan, they did a good job. There's a bunch of cool stuff on there. And So Close Yet So Far, I know there's a bunch of early demos of songs and stuff, really early versions of some of these songs we covered tonight and stuff. So again, it's kind of cool. We wish all bands would put up all this stuff online. It's fun.
Yeah. All right. Thanks everybody for joining us. Bye.
Yep. Thanks everybody. Bye.